gratitude for standing in place for Reverend Clemens for today, who is the General Conference, right? The General Conference in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yes,
ma'am. Yeah. Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Yates Rand, and most of you, well, all of you know me, even though I haven't been in church in a minute, but I've been on Facebook.
on yourself.
And in between commercials, I go to another church, so I'm church hopping on Facebook. Because of the type of work I do, I work with a lot of churches across the state, and by things being on Zoom now gives me opportunity to go to virtually all the churches that I deal with my job. Just to give you some background about myself, like I said, I've been a member of Shot Temple since I moved here in 2008, and from Augusta, Georgia. We used to Memorial City Church, and there I started an AIDS ministry, and it had some kickbacks from some of the older members, because they didn't want to be known as the AIDS church. Yeah, okay. So me being who I am and the type of work I was doing at the time, working with the HIV community, I kind of befriended some of the elders in the church, because the elders pretty much say what goes on in the church. Then they tell the pastor what has to be done. You know how that goes. But to make a long story short, we had some friction, and when I moved to Augusta, moved to Atlanta, to work for Aid Atlanta, my Christian father, who's passed on, Robert Laurie, he said, well, when you move to Atlanta, start a health ministry and you cover all the health issues. And then every now and then you sneak your HIV and AIDS education in. And my elder Magnus, he said, you need to go visit Shaq Temple before you join the church up there. So I said, Atlanta's so big, I'm not going to be able to find the church. So me being petrified of getting on the freeway, I would go to work the back way. And I would pass Shaq Temple. So one morning I said, hey, that's that church. The elder told me I need to go visit, right? So that's Father Sunday, I went to church, came to Shaq Temple when we was on Memorial Drive. And I started going, every Sunday. And some of my church members in Augusta had family members at Shaq Temple. So I kind of befriended them. And I interviewed the pastor before I actually joined, because I wanted to continue my mission that God had placed in my heart working with the HIV community. Because I didn't want to get the same kind of freaks I had got in Augusta. So I interviewed Pastor Johnson. He was our pastor at the time. He said, you know what, we got a board meeting next week, and you should come and present. I said, okay. So I put all my stuff together, my portfolio from what I've done in Augusta, and I did my presentation. And at the end of the meeting, Sister Broomfield, she said, why can't we start our AIDS ministry? I was like, okay, that was the point, but I just said, health ministry. And everybody was on board, which really was really welcome that, everyone was on board for the health ministry. So we started doing, health seminars on different issues that affect, people like me and you. And we had a good run, because the first health fair we had a conjunction with the youth. We did a back to school / health fair. And Mercy Care Clinic brought their mobile unit, and they did physicals for one of our members who was a coach, and he's passed on since. But his players were able to get physicals from the health fair. And I think we ended up had to go to the store to buy more book bags than we anticipated. I think we gave out like 300 something book bags that particular year. So it kind of jump-started the health ministry here at Shot Temple. And over the years, we had some changes. We even implemented community resource center for the health ministry. And we would have health fairs every year. And I would stick my HIV and AIDS in whenever I could. And since then, my career has taken a turn, but HIV and AIDS has been in my heart because it jumpstarted my career. And today's subject is dealing with stigma and HIV and AIDS. Excuse me. This is a health initiative by the CDC. So in the next 5 years, we are hitting the ground hard with encouraging people to get tested, which tomorrow is National HIV Testing Day. Encouraging everyone to get tested, know your status. It's also dealing with the stigma. All the years when I was in Augusta, being an advocate, I couldn't buy a date because of the work I was doing, because people thought I was positive. And then when I shaved my head, it was like, okay, what's going on with you now? So when I told them the story about, the reason why I shaved my head, because I took care of my aunt, who at first was diagnosed with skin cancer, and then in her remission, she developed breast cancer. And I was with her doing her cycle bout of cancer. When she started losing her hair, she was, feeling some kind of way. And I was saying, man, I'd rather have you here without hair than not to have you here with hair. So I shaved my head, and she was like, oh, Patty, you did? I said, man, it's just hair, it'll grow back, So this past January, 12 years, she's passed, and I just, over the years, I just kept this look in her honor. And I had an experience a couple years back. I was in the store, and this lady was following me around the store, and I was just looking at her smile, and but she kept following me. So then she approached me, she was saying, baby, last time you ain't have a lick of hair. So she assumed that I had breast cancer. So she took out her phone and started showing me pictures with her reconstruction from the beginning to the end. It was really, wasn't no pretty nice pictures. So I ain't had the heart to tell her that I wasn't a survivor because she had opened up to me, right? And I said, thanks for sharing. And I felt real bad afterwards that I should have told her. Then that probably would have made her more into her shell, not wanting to talk to people. I know I'm going on course. But all this ties in together. Like I said, my career started with HIV and AIDS. And I worked with a lot of people. The people in our panel, matter of fact, has been a part of my journey. Wanda, when I was in Augusta, when I first came to Atlanta, she corrected me, said she's a nurse practitioner, but we know nurse practitioners are more friendly than the doctors. And then Elder Francis, he wasn't Elder Francis at the time, but you could tell he had something in him that was going to lead him where he's at now. So these panelists here, they're awesome people, and I really appreciate you guys want to be a part of today. And our title is today, Saving Souls on Sunday. And being the state manager for the Mama Gilead, we was given this initiative to do HIV and AIDS education, awareness, testing events over the next 5 years. So this is the first event of many. And of course, every time I do anything with my organization, I always try to include my church. I still love y'all. I probably don't tie like I should, but I bring y'all in the fold to, get that exposure. That's tied into my other two. No, y'all would agree, right? Y'all would agree back to it. But without further ado, I'm going to introduce our panel so we can go and get started. I believe in honoring and respecting everyone's time, because we have another event on the west side. And I posted this morning on Facebook about today's event. And, the balm in Gilead, in Jeremiah 8:22, it talks about there is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin sick soul. So, and that's what I firstly, Dr. P, but she was here, she was saying that song. I can't hold a note. I can't get near a note, so I'm not going to sing. But a part of the name of the Mama Gilead is based on Isaiah 8:22. We love people. We love assisting them with health care, getting them connected with the right resources. So we're here. We are the Balm in Gilead. That is the Balm in Gilead. Our first panelist is Ms. Wanda Collier. Ms. Wanda, she is the CEO of Stop Our Stigma Foundation. It's a nonprofit organization committed to ceasing the alienation of human beings living with mental health, HIV and AIDS, and all actions associated with the stigma. She also associated with assisting individuals in the living a productive life, and not be affected by the stigma. She was recently received the Giving Your Best Award by Channel 6 and the University of Augusta in Augusta, Georgia. That's where I know Wanda from, and we've been friends for 20 odd years. And can I tell them the story? I'll give them the story. I just be a part of your story, I got it too. So, female, like I said, Dr. Stevens, she said she's a nurse practitioner. I've worked with her at Mercy Care Clinic. I've seen her firsthand how she cares for patients that come in the clinic who are affected with HIV and AIDS. There's no doubt about she's real sincere where you get those other doctors, you know, they come in, you spend like less than 10 minutes and you on to the next patient. So she really cares about her patients, and as my role, I was a medical case manager, and some of the patients need assistance with the medication, so I would do the application to help them get the medication. So Cindy, sometimes she would walk into my office and say, hey, I need you to help this person. You know, she's good at what she do. And she's certified through, she was credentialed through the American Academy of HIV Medicine as a HIV specialist. She has worked over 30 years providing medical care for the LGBTQ community. She has worked at Mercy Care Clinic for 29 years. She's happily married and has 4 children. And I think I talked to her when we were talking the other day. She said one of her daughters is working on her master's. Was that you, children? Okay, I talked to so many people last week. So we can be proud of support our sisters, you know, educating themselves and moving up. And then we have Elder Francis. Excuse me, Ricky Francis. Like I said, when I met Elder, he wasn't an elder then. Like I said, you could tell it was somebody that leading him on his path down. He is the lead practitioner for Lives and Soul Ministerial Church. Not ministry, but ministry. That's the difference, right? And I was like, you know what? There is a difference. But people don't realize there is a difference between pastoring and preaching. You know, learning and teaching, right? He's also the movement director of the Be the Church Network. I like that. Be the church. We got to be the church, right? He's also the ministry developer of Atlanta/Piedmont, and I can't pronounce this word. It's MEGREGIE.
Oh, mega region.
Who?
Mega region.
Mega regional. Okay, that means everywhere, right?
Pretty much.
He's everywhere preacher. He's everybody's preacher of the World Impact and the CEO of the Hub. And I think he's going to elaborate more on that. He's also is a Kingdom Strategy Coach, activist, and missional artist. So you're going to have to expound on all of that. I present you guys our panel for today. I was just talking to Elder too, and I said, and I misquoted. I said, did God say when 1 or 2 are gathered? He was like, no. You just having a conversation by yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Personal.
He said 2 or 3. I guess I need to get back to church right now.
You told on yourself today. Beating on Tuesday.
But y'all be in my heart. Y'all be in my heart. Y'all be in my heart. Sister Karen, she would text me every Sunday, once a month about how you doing. So I missed 3 months, 2 months for her texting me. So I text her. I say, how you doing? And we share a birthday together. We twins. That family, the church family is your extended family. And when you lose someone, that's a different kind of church hurt. We've lost a lot of people within the pandemic season, be it the coronavirus, or just plain on other ailments. But we need to stay in touch with everybody. You know, one piece with other. So without further ado, we're gonna start with Miss Wanda. You wanna come with us, come to us in your own little way and really tell how we really can be really connected?
I got you.
You have a speech. You need a
No,
mic?
it's not a speech. I let you put that on. This what you call it, so tall, I mean so short. And I'm so tall. Y'all see I'm about 10 feet tall, right? Okay. So, give me a hot second. Pull my nerves together. Okay. So Pat, I know you want me to tell them where we met at, but I need to do this first. So let me ask a question. How old do you think that I am? 52. But Mr. Robert, I should have told him not to say that because he already know my age. But I'm 52. I'm 52 with 5 grown kids and I have 12 grandkids. Actually, one more question. How long do you think I've been HIV positive? Nobody want to throw out a number? I like that don't nobody want to throw out a number. That's a good thing. Because, you know, usually they say when you look at a person, you can tell, right? That's what they used to say back in the day. So nobody wants to throw out a number?
30.
How many?
30.
You said 3?
30.
30. You was almost right, Ms. Robert. So I've been in the business for 33 years. It'll soon be the end of July. Will soon be 34 years. So I've been positive for 34 years. Right? I am a recovering crack addict of 12 years. I have been in prison 20 years time. And I live with what I call past lives of ancestors that I live with. The clinical term is now schizophrenic, along with some other bipolar and some other stuff they say, you know. So that's who I am. Not who I am, that's what I have. So now I'm getting ready to tell you who I am, right? So I have our own foundation that we do HIV and mental health, which y'all heard Ms. Pat say. I'm also wearing all the hats that God decided that I was supposed to wear in the first place. As a woman, as a sister, as a mama, just all the hats. That's even becoming a wife. So with that being said, I'm gonna tell you how I met Pat. Y'all don't judge me. So when I first met Miss Pat, I was in a transitional center called St. Stephen's Ministry. I had just came out of prison, and Pat was there as a case manager. And I don't know why, and I didn't understand why, which I do now understand why the relationship was the way that it was. I was a very aggressive person when I came out of prison. I didn't like nobody telling me what to do because I'd already been in prison, y'all, with that, right? So I didn't like nobody telling me what to do. So me and Pat back there, we didn't have such a good relationship when we first started off. I really tried to get her fired. I wanted her out of there. But God saw fit for something else because he knew I was going to be on this path to talk and to give my truth. And that's the best thing that I can give to anybody in this life. And through Pat, I was able to do that because I was able to share a lot of things with her, even about my status. Before I decided to come out, as y'all heard Pat say, Brother Robert can tell people that he's my friend, and because he tells them that he's my friend, they automatically think he's HIV positive, right? That's just the truth. It's there. My partner is HIV negative, but when they know that we're together, people would say, "Oh, she must be positive," right? So I learned how to tell my truth, and I learned to come out and just stop the stigma. Stop the stigma of, you know, people looking at people that are positive, or we have these mental health challenges is what I call them. or that I've been in prison. You know, just the stigma of all of that I lived with, it grieved me when I had some of my peers that did not have the same support that I had. Because see, when I came out, when I said I was gonna come out and tell people I was positive in Augusta, my mother is very well known. She's like one of the pillars in Augusta. So when I decided to come out, my biggest thing for her was she was driving a school bus, so y'all know how kids can be, right? And everybody knew I was her daughter. And my mother said to me, she said, I do not care what nobody thinks. If nobody wants to deal with me because you're HIV positive, they ain't supposed to be there in the first place. And that was profound for me. So now, when I speak or when I talk to people, babe, she'll tell you I'll be in the grocery store. Don't get too close to me, gonna be like, you know what, I'm HIV positive. You know, because what I've learned is doing that, it weeds out the people that's not supposed to be there. So I'm grateful that Pat was able to stay in my life, because on this path, she has actually helped me tell my truth, right? And when I'm telling my truth, the one great thing about telling truth, that nobody else can tell my truth for me. Because if someone asks you, how do you know she's positive? First thing you gonna say is, she told you. She told me. So that's my purpose in this walk. I'm not about the clinical terms and stuff like that. My only thing is to get people to change their mind about the way that they see us. Because HIV and mental health challenges, what I have is not who I am. And if you choose not to get to know me, that's on you. You know, so that's my goal in all of this. I'm not trying to stay up here too long. I wanted to read this right quick. It was really profound, which just says a lot. One more question. How many of y'all think I'm supposed to be responsible to tell you I'm HIV positive? Please raise your hand, let me know what you think. You think I should tell you? If we're getting ready to have sex, you think I should tell you? You think I should tell? Who else think I should tell? Yeah? Okay, so I'm sorry to tell you, you're wrong. Morally? Yeah. But think about it. If I know that it's stigma against me telling someone that they're not going to be bothered with me, they're going to look at me different, because we're not made to be alone, right? We're really not. So if you want to throw stigma at me, then why would I want to tell you? Because I don't want to be looked at different, right? So the biggest thing is that you're responsible for your own life. Yeah, it's my more duty to tell you, but when I was getting high, I didn't tell nobody, because I'm not going to stop getting my drugs and my money, right? So guess who's responsible for your life? It ain't me. You're responsible for your life. So if you don't ask me, hey, what's your sexual life about? What you did? Let's go get tested together and see the papers together. So that's another thing that I want to make sure that people understand, is that we're not responsible for anybody else's life. You have to be responsible for your own life in this. You have to be. Not just with HIV, with anything. You have to be. So I'm going to read this. It says, whatever you give, you get back. When you are open for the universe to work through you, to expand, then you are destined to do what the Creator wanted you to do. Love. It's a poet. I don't know what his name is. I can't pronounce it. You give little when you give of your possessions, but it's when you give of yourself that you truly give. There are those that give little or much that they have, or give it for recommendation or hidden desires, makes their gift unwholeness. When you give from your heart, when you give from your soul, you give it all. So with that being said, me giving you my truth is me giving you my all. And with that, I hope when you come across someone that lives with this virus or live with the mental health challenges like schizophrenia, that you would also give them your love and support, because that's what we need. Because I couldn't make it like I do without the love and support that I have. So with that being said, that's all that I have for you.
think she got shorter over the years. Yeah, she did try to get me fired on my off day. On my off day. I did. But just like she said, God saw fit for us to get past that. And I appreciate you. We best of friends. Now she be counseling me. And I thank God for you staying in my life. I'm on this journey, and I'm blessed to be a part of your journey. Like she said, she started her own organization, Stop Our Stigma Foundation.
Incorporation.
Yeah. You know, she's doing wonderful things. She even created her own website for the organization. And there's a lot, we're gonna see a lot from her in the near future. And we want to support her on her journey. Next we have, I'm still gonna say Dr. Sydney. Like I said, she's worked in the HIV field for over 29 years, providing medical care to patients in the metro Atlanta area. Mike, you want to go?
Can you all hear me? I got a good inside voice. So if not, just kind of wave with questions, whatever. I'm not gonna walk up to the podium. As a healthcare provider, giving HIV care for really is 29 and 11 months, almost 30 years. I appreciate Pat inviting me to this town hall because it helps me as a healthcare provider. When you've been at it for 30 years, sometimes you become desensitized to the things that persons who are affected or infected with HIV are going through. So it really kind of opens your eyes to see everything that's going around or that's happening to the patients that come to you for care. So I'm just gonna kind of give you some insight as I see it, stigma related to persons with HIV. Definitely there is stigma, and the clients or my patients recognize that. Many of them come in, I've had some that have come in with hoods over the hoodies on that they don't want to recognize, they don't want anybody in the exam or the waiting room to recognize them, that they want their bottles of medication to be packaged differently because they don't want someone to read potentially what medication they're on. So you have all of these different things that are going on in these persons' lives. As a Christian, what I try to remember is that I try not to judge anyone, okay? And I think that's where stigma comes in. We automatically see someone with HIV and we automatically go 360 degrees and assume that they've done things to put themselves in that situation, and that's not always the case. As I tell my children, I have teenagers, 17 through 24, and the statistics were at one point in time that 1 in 4 persons in the state of Georgia would have HIV and not know it. So I've got 4 kids, so I'm constantly on them to, you know, I'm promoting abstinence, but again, they are kids. And you can only try to get them to do the right thing. I'm not with them 24/7, but also making them aware that there is HIV out there. And then there's the stigma of when you want to get into a relationship. It's very hard to open yourself up to someone and say, I have HIV. Are you willing to still associate with me and be with me? That's hard to put yourself out there and possibly be hurt by someone saying, no, I can't deal with this. And we'll agree to disagree on this here, that, you know, you should share that with them because they should have a choice. Others have not shared with others and they didn't have a choice. And they were infected, you know, unknowingly. So there's a lot of nuances related to stigma. One thing I would just say as Christians, and hopefully we are Christians, or we're getting closer to God in our relationship with Him, is that we should not be judgmental, and that we should realize that we don't know where we're going to end up in the end. Just as Christ was crucified and there was someone on His right side and left side, and one who repented at that point in time, he was going to be with Christ in paradise. And we don't know what he did up until that time. So we shouldn't stigmatize people and say, no, you can't, you won't make it. You know, you've done something in your life that will, you know, you'll end up in hell. That's not always the case. So I know I've been kind of disjointed with my conversation. But I just want to kind of give you an idea that, you know, yes, stigma is out there. People are hurt, but HIV is just like high blood pressure and diabetes. It's well controlled, and people are living the normal lifespan if they're just taking care of themselves. So, but you do have to go out there and seek the care. And there is HIV National Testing Day tomorrow, and most clinics are offering it on a daily basis that you can get tested. All you have to do is say, hey, I want testing. And no one is outside of being tested. I mean, I have, over the years, seen married persons who've tested with HIV. I've seen pastors tested and had HIV. I've seen pastors' wives. I've seen deacons. I've seen everything, okay? So I'm basically saying that everyone out there is at risk, and we should not say that, hey, I should not get tested. I've had 60-year-olds who've tested positive for HIV. You know, so no one is outside of that happening to them. So take advantage of the resources, get tested, know that there is good treatment now. They even have a shot called Cabenuva that you can get now every other month. So you don't have to have pills and bottles, and that sort of thing. So, and coming through the tunnel are possible implants and those sorts of things, you know, just like the Depo-Provera that women used to have, where you could change it every 3 years. Now, I'm not saying they got an implant every 3 years. I'm just saying that those are things that are coming down the pipeline. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I'm gonna pass the mic to Pat unless anyone has any questions that they would like to ask me about what I've said, or any.
So I want to first let me clear up something. Then I want to talk about the language that we use. So I heard you say infected and affected. So in the language of HIV, we have changed the language. So it's living with instead of affected or affected by with our people. So the language changed. Second, I don't want anyone to think that I said we're not supposed to sell. I said morally, depends on where that person is at, that you have to take responsibility for your own life. So we agree, not disagree.
Just, I recall when I was working at Mercy Care Clinic, we had this patient. She wasn't on my caseload. She was transgender. Excuse me, transgender. Is this on?
You gotta hold the button down until it turns green.
Okay. Is that turning green? Oh, there we go. Okay, there was this patient that would come in the clinic. She was transgender, and she wasn't on my caseload, but she didn't want to sit in the lobby. Dr. Sidney said they would be, covered up. So what I did, I would not schedule her one day she came in the clinic, so she could sit in my office until her name was called. And I always reference to her as she and her. I'm like, girl, where you get that blouse from? Because when you see a person that's transgender, some people, they're not gonna honor that. They're gonna call them, a he or a she. So when they come across people who do treat them as the way they want to be treated or be called, they're more open to you. And we developed a good friendship over the years, and I was at Mercy Care Clinic. Sometimes I wonder what how she's doing. And I pray that she's doing well. But we can't be assuming or passing judgment. That's again the stigma. And Cindy, you mentioned about the medication. When I went in Savannah, I would do the pill boxes for some of my clients. And every Friday I would fill these pill boxes up. So about 6 months had passed by. He came in on a Friday, had a bag, $7 bag full of pills. I was like, you supposed to be taking the pills. And he was like, you got so much joy out of filling the box, my pill box. I didn't want to tell you that I wasn't taking them. I was like, these pills are $1 million pills in that bag. So, but again, I had to, step back and, and really find out what was really going on with him. He found out he was living out of his car. I said, why can't you ain't saying that? We could have got you housing. We could have done this and done that. He said, now that you know what you can do. I said, pick up the phone. He got housing like in 2 days. I said, so next time, don't, they say the closed mouth don't get fed.
Mm-hmm.
Then he started saying all his friends to me. But next we have Elder Francis. He
Come with a disclaimer.
I tried to put it nicely.
Is a disruptor
That's the best one.
in church and in community.
Elder Francis.
So I'm excited to be here, and I thank the pastor of this church for allowing this space. But if you look to your left and to your right, there's a problem, right? Because folks are everywhere else than where they need to be, especially when HIV still exists very much in our community. And I think what we have to look at when we look at the statistics, why African Americans bear the burden of HIV and HIV impact, especially in the South, but we bear the brunt of everything we shouldn't bear the brunt on, right? Of unemployment, lack of access to care, education, income and equity, equality. So many things we bear the brunt of, right? So I've always looked at HIV, especially doing this work now since 2009, just as a side effect of what's really going on the social landscape of what's going on. So I really think that HIV is a side effect of all of that. right? And like I said, I'm a disruptor. I come with the disclaimer most of the times because in our church expression, we do communion as well as condoms and clean needles, because we believe that we got to save lives and save souls, right? And not one instance that I find Jesus preaching without meeting the needs of the people. And the work that we currently we do, we have over 300 folks in 4 hotels here in DeKalb County, and they come with a plethora of issues, right? From toxic motherhood to absence of fathers in the household, to children not being able to read, to substance use, and it always amazes me that they're still human and they still have sex, right? The mother's board of this church has sex. I don't know if there's any mothers in today. They have sex. Mother Levitra, Mother Cialis, and Mother Viagra have sex. So we talk about the youth. But my grandmother always used to say, just because there's smoke on the chimney don't mean that there's no fire in the furnace. They need to have a conversation. They also need to have the conversation around HIV and other STIs, because most of our grandmothers are raising our children, right? And where I can appreciate teaching of abstinence, it must be a comprehensive sex education program that we put forward, because children are definitely experimenting. Even on the little flyer, I believe that's in everyone's seat, it said that we need to be tested from 13 to 64. 13 to 64, and last night we did an event, and we did condom demonstration, I'm sorry. And we had folks putting condoms on cucumbers, and there was a gift prize, etc. And the boys were struggling. They were just opening up the wrapper. There was a 10-year-old that came up and opened up the package, and it was on the cucumber that quick. Now, where did he see that? Right? He said, was it from his other brothers? Because they were struggling. So I don't think he saw it from there. Could it have been from the mama? Or maybe even the grandma? I'm not quite sure. So I think the conversation has to be had. I personally don't feel that we will end stigma. I think that's a good marketing ploy. I think we need to deal with self-stigma. It's how you feel about what people say about you. If a white supremacist called me a nigger or a Niger, it's gonna, and see, I try to clean it up a little bit, right? If they call me a Niger, right, then they don't change the language, right? But it's gonna be how I take in the word, right? So I think the self-stigma piece is where the church can get involved, because we can go ahead and impact and impart what God's purpose is for someone's life, what their kingdom mandate is in all that they do. And we can share story after story after story of folks that we have ministered to literally out on the streets of Atlanta. And God has placed purpose in these individuals, but it has been just sort of quelched, if you will, from church hurt, from religious trauma, right? From just trauma in general. Young transgender prayed for him, right? My wife said that they were transgender. I prayed publicly, so I apologized publicly and corrected the pronoun and prayed. And 45 minutes, they were on my leg weeping, said because no pastor had ever identified them by the proper pronoun. Got into the story, it was also a pastor at 3 years old that started the molestation and the abuse. We've had sex workers behind Waffle House that today are now doing Bible studies for other individuals that participate in sex work in their apartment. Hear what I said, they were a sex worker behind Waffle House and now doing Bible study in their own house, right? So through the program that we had put them through, God's purpose came out. So we have a lot of work to do as church folks, as kingdom-minded folks. I praise God for the ministry that we have, and we do actually make a distinction between the two. There's some stuff that I have to do that folks say, well, you know, how could you be a pastor and wear a bulletproof vest? Or how can you be a pastor and carry a gun? Right? We say this. The Bible is for the believers. The gun is for the non-believers. And if I got to pull the gun, I pray that you a believer. Right? Said because the world is changing around us, and we have a tendency to barricade ourselves behind our church hats, our speaking in tongues, our running around the church, and not dealing with the issues that are right outside of our door. If we went out this door to the right or to the left, we can find homeless, we can find HIV, we can find all of those things, and they're necessarily not turning to the church because they don't think the church is there. And I'm not talking about this particular church, just church in general. Said, but they're not turning to the church anymore, right? And I just truly believe that we, as the church, may need to open up our doors and go out into community. And it's going to require us to take off our robes, right, our full regalia, and go and be amongst the people, dropping some of the titles and different things of that nature, and just having conversation with folks and finding out what their needs are. And I have found in every type of client that we deal with, we have service at 3 o'clock today for many of them, that they want to be loved on. They want to be prayed, but they don't want to be damned to hell, right? They want to be met where they are, and we sort of have adopted, come as you are, just don't expect to stay where you are. So because if I'm doing my position from our pulpit, right, there's going to be a change. There's going to be some change. We pray over those condoms. We pray over those needles. And then folks are like, my high just don't feel the same. I know it don't. I know it don't. And when they come back and say that they want to get off of drugs, or they want to get out of sex work, or they, in this particular program, want to get their own house, different things of that nature, we have to put some things into place that ain't necessarily looking like a regular Bible study anymore. I went from 45, good Baptist, right? 45 minutes and 3 points, and I had to go down to 7 minutes and 1 point, and that point need to carry you through the week, right? So I thank God for being here, but we have to get the church in this conversation to all church members, We can preach abstinence all we want from the pulpit, but it's easy if we married. And I'm gonna leave it alone, because like I said, I gotta be in service at 3 o'clock. But this has been a challenge for us, and I invite your leadership to, I just came back from Dallas, a proclamation at the intersections, and I'm gonna be inviting some clergy to sit down and figure out how we can get in the room, right? My wife always says a fish rots from the head, right? So we gotta get the heads together and figure out how the conversation, she's from St. Louis, y'all, I guess that's a St. Louis saying. But figure out how leadership can begin to have conversations around HIV and sex. We don't talk about sex, more or less HIV, but to figure out how we can have this conversation. Because truth be told, I'm tired of National HIV Testing Day. I'm tired of World AIDS Day. It's 41 years. 41 years we've been having the same conversation, and each year the rates continue to change. The demographic, the population may shift. No longer a gay disease by far, but the conversation has to shift, and I just truly believe that it has to start within the house of the Lord. All hearts and minds clear. Amen, somebody.
Amen.
We're gonna, like I said, I always try to be mindful of everyone's time, and we said it was gonna start on time and end on time. But Elder Francis, you mentioned, well, in your bio, you said be the church. Be the church. That's how and where we should start. Be the church. Be the church. Be the church.
That's a whole nother workshop.
It's a whole nother workshop. Be the church. Again, thank you guys for coming out. 2 or 3 are gathered, elders.
Hey.
2 or 3 are gathered. And I agree with you, Elder Francis. The stigma, it might not go away, but we can chip at it.
It's marketing. Let me tell y'all, white folks sitting on the 12th floor coming up with marketing campaigns, right? Let's end HIV together. You can't name a black agency in Atlanta that's really doing work, right? We're not together when they get all the money.
Right.
They still get all the money. Black agencies are not getting the money, they getting the leftover money, right? That comes in for them to service African Americans, right? So these are marketing ploys that look good on t-shirts, that look good on t-shirts. You equals you is undetectable, is untransmitted. Well, is also unemployed, is also underrepresented, unhoused, if that's a word, right? But that wasn't designed for us, right? That was designed by someone that used African Americans, said to go ahead and promote it, right? So I think we got to start having some real conversations around not equality but equity, right? And then figure out how we can go ahead and fix the situation for ourselves, right? We got, as you know, I am sure even in this congregation, if I were to fall out at 11, what time is y'all service? 11? You don't even know. What time is the service? I am sure if I fell out with a heart attack at 10:30 in the middle of service, there's gonna be a nurse or a doctor that's gonna care for me like this in the sanctuary. In the sanctuary. There's nurse practitioners in the sanctuary. There's folks that work in the health fields in the sanctuary, right? But the ambulance is gonna wind up taking me to where? To Northside or to Grady or what have you. When we have the space, right, for our own clinics in community, right? Set a Saturday clinic with some of the Sunday school space that we have or other space that we have on some of our campuses. We have what we need, plenty of land around the property to do an urban garden. That ends food deserts, etc. Little minor things that we can do as a church to get back to community. And that's why when you said be the church, we got to get back to the basics, right? It is no longer lives and souls against Shy Temple, right? If folks come to Shy Temple, praise God, especially if I know that they are Bible teaching, Bible believing church, right? I am not a pastor. My gift is far from being, ask the pastor over there, she's the one with the patience and the nurturer. My gift wound up being apostolic and prophetic, right? So my thing has always been, it can't be a competition with churches, right? We as leaders got together, faith leaders got to get together, look at the issues, figure out what's the lane, right? My lane is, there's certain lanes that I'm not in. I don't do 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. I'm very uncomfortable, right, at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. My lane is give me 12 o'clock on a Saturday night, said to go minister to those that Jesus would minister to, said get them in a position to serve and to be taught at 10 o'clock on Sunday morning, Wednesday night, wherever it may be. But the faith leaders got to come together across denominational lines, look at issues that are pressing, and figure out the fixes. Because if you think abortion is about women's rights, you got another thump coming.
Come on now.
Another thump coming.
Come on now.
And I'm gonna leave it alone because y'all get my blood pressure. Sit next to the nurse practitioner. She says y'all just gonna have to pray for me. We gonna have to start looking at the issues or whatever. The fact that Donald Trump is even thinking about running for 2020 versus figuring out a lawyer for said to get himself out of jail, not keeping him out of jail, because I'd have been long arrested with half of the stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
This is stuff that we want to be blindsided by and get.
And not see what's really going on.
You better close.
Okay.
You better close.
He's gonna start preaching. He
Better
said
close.
he's a preacher.
I know a pastor. I teach now, but teach anyway.
Again, thank you guys for coming out.
My.
Next event is this afternoon at 4:30 on the west end at Cascade, 590 Cascade, 590. And it's in the Kroger parking lot. We are doing the HIV testing. We have Morehouse School of Medicine doing regular screenings, blood pressure, cholesterol, and glucose. Recovery consultants are doing HIV testing and STD screening. And Sister Garrett is going to be working with homeless veterans, providing information. And we will also have Mama Gilead, I get paid, there with our diabetes information, prevention information. Again, thank you guys. And Dr. StigmaGoddess is going to be giving out condoms. You may want to have Elder pray over before you
I got you.
mine.
I thought about that same thing.
Okay. Anyway, this has been good. And again, thank you guys for coming out.
Thank you.